Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order, and if you'll please join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and if we can have a roll call, please.
Trustee Bowser.
Here.
Trustee Rivard.
Here.
Trustee Vanderhyde.
Here.
Treasurer Gilmore.
Here.
Secretary Slager. Here. Vice President Schachter.
Here.
President Reed.
Here. Thank you. We have established a quorum, and we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Having none, Mr. Schaffner?
Yes.
Ms. Slager?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Ms. Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Mr. Rivard?
Yes.
Ms. Bowser?
Yes.
The agenda is adopted as presented. That brings us to gratitudes. And I'm going to start. I'm very grateful that the Red Hawk was in the Red Flannel Parade in the Wrangler with Mr. Smith. It was great. Thank you for doing that.
You're so welcome. It was awesome. Did you hear us yell?
I did.
My kids want to know if you heard too. So
I am grateful for all the band parents that helped out at the Red Flannel Festival. It was amazing.
Kudos to that as well. It was an amazing performance and a little excitement there during it, but it was cool. It was good.
okay.
The wind moved some of the stuff.
Oh.
We're running out.
So, yeah. Handled nicely. Recovered well.
And we weren't getting points because of this exhibition, so it was all
Correct.
right. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
I'm thankful for the monster effort of members of our tech team who put together carts of laptops feverishly and got those delivered to the high school last week. So they hopefully are in your hands and you're doing great things with them academically.
Okay. We'll move on to, we have with us our high school representatives, Selena Wheeler and Mara Lutz. You want to give us an update on what's going on in high school?
Currently we are working on our homecoming procession. Our spirit days were Monday, we had the Great and Powerful Oz, which was all green and bling, hence the hair. Tuesday we have Twister Tuesday, which is Wacky Clothes Day. Wednesday we have Which is a twin day. Thursday we have Lions, Tigers, and Bears, which is a character day to dress as a character from The Wizard of Oz. And then Friday we have The Storm is Coming, which is class colors. We will be hallway decorating Thursday night. We invite you to please come and be a judge Friday morning, 7 to 7:30 a.m.
Hi, I'm Selena. I'm senior class representative. So this Friday we have a assembly at 1:30, which we acknowledge our core. We do games and stuff, really get into school spirit, I guess. And then at the homecoming game, we will announce King and Queen at halftime. And then at the homecoming dance, it's this Saturday, and we just have to set that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Exciting week.
I love the theming. That whole theming part was, I like that a lot.
Try.
Okay. You're welcome to stay, or you can go if you have homework or other festivities to plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to consent items, and I'll entertain a motion.
Support.
Mr. Schaffner?
Yes.
Ms. Slager?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Ms. Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Mr. Rivard?
Yes.
Ms. Bowser?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Yes. Consent items are approved. And moving to discussion, we have first financial update with Mr. Jeff Mallon.
Two good things. I wanted to point out that one that our school bond loan fund refunding officially closed on October 2nd. Everything went smooth. All the money was transferred to the state of Michigan to pay off the school bond loan fund balance. We were also transferred some money to pay off all the costs of issuance expenses. And then the final one was all the bonds were released to the investors. So smooth closing. It's now in the books. We officially saved taxpayers about $505,000. So it's definitely a good thing. The second one is, I forgot to mention this at our last board meeting as I was presenting the audit information, but last year with interest rates climbing a bit, we did record about $84,000 in interest earnings just in the general fund. So I just thought that would be a nice thing to share with the board. Definitely a good thing that we were able to do in terms of managing our cash flow. And so those are the couple items for the financial update.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Sure. So the interest that we earn, who invests that for us?
My office.
Your office does
Yeah,
invest?
primarily me. You know, we, at the January meeting, you approved, an organizational meeting, you approved MyLAP, which hadn't been utilized for a while, Michigan Liquid Asset Fund. And they really are just extremely competitive. It's really a group of school districts that got together to look at government securities that meet state statutes for allowable investments for school districts. So that typically has been about 25 basis points higher than what we can get in a federated fund at independent bank. So we kind of used a blend last year where MyLAF is a little bit more competitive this year, so you know a lot of our money is held there. And as we get all of our revenue from taxes in the fall, from a complete summer levy, you know, I've just moved a lot of that money, even in our debt fund, over because you know we're getting 2%, a little over 2% in MyLAF. So we let it sit there until we make our November 1st, May 1st payments. And there's some term interest rates that I can look at that I'm actually looking at right now because, you know, as you've seen, the Fed's been reducing the overnight rate for banks. So if you can lock in a 6-month term right now at the current rate, thinking that the Fed is going to reduce that rate, sometimes that's better than the liquid rate that we get right now as well. So we maintain a cash flow spreadsheet as well that you know we look at our just really weekly inflows and outflows in all of our funds.
And then the expense for the audit doesn't rise to the competitive bid amount, is that correct?
It was actually competitively bid before I got here. So the ISD typically goes out to all the locals every 3 or 4 years and asks who wants to go out and be a part of an RFP for audit services. Rated L. Hefner won our bid, and the board must have approved them back in 2018. So this was the second year of that 3-year contract with them. So the recommendation in January will again to be to stick with them. And Jason will be here at first board meeting in November.
One more question. What do we do with that $84,000? Just goes back into the general fund?
Yeah, it's just considered general fund revenue. In that pot of $38 million, unrestricted money.
It pays for a teacher and a parapro.
There you go.
That's a good way to look at it.
Thank you for investing that.
Yeah. Part of the job.
Anything further? Okay. We'll move on to item B, 2020 summer tax resolution. Jeff will again be on deck.
Yeah, so this one's pretty straightforward. So in order to levy that summer tax levy at 100%, then we need to make sure that the board passes this resolution before the end of December. So, you know, for me, in my prior district too, I just typically put it on the agenda in the fall. So it gives you an opportunity to discuss it if you want, and it gets us out in front of that January 1st deadline where we need to submit this resolution to all the taxing entities, all the townships in the city, to let them know that the board's approved the 100% summer tax levy. And again, remember that's for the taxes that were just paid by our residents for 2019. So this is for that next cycle, starting July 1, 2020. The taxes that will be due at the end of September 2020. Questions on that?
thank you. We'll move on to C, the high school replacement stage curtain bid.
So I went to Ken and Justin Harnden and got some information on the condition of the curtains and some other details that I'll share here. But as you're looking through the 4 different quotes or the bids in the board book, all 4 bids came in to specification. As you can see, the low bid was right there at $53,900, all the way up to $146,000. Okay, so quite a variety. Again, all the alternates were bid up. Alternates 1 and 2 were bid on, and then a couple didn't bid on alternate 3 and 4. These companies, the one we're recommending is the one from Michigan, North Coast. That's the one that Justin Harnden had kind of brought in to look and see what we would need to do to replace them appropriately. The other companies are out of Ohio and New Jersey, 2 from Ohio. So there's really, Justin said, only a couple companies in Michigan that do this type of work. He thought that this was the best one. Keep in mind that this is a general fund expense. So this does not meet the criteria for being sinking fund eligible. So this would be, $54,000 out of the general fund. About the condition of the current curtains, we had them assessed about a year ago, and it sounds like 90% of the curtains have some type of tear or it's compromised in some way, shape, or form. Again, this is Justin and Ken. There's a 6 to 8 foot tear in the section of the curtains that we have. These curtains are the originals from when the auditorium was built, which I'm assuming is when the high school was built. So they're about 20 years old. Another concern is that the fire retardancy has long worn off. They also gave us about a $17,000 quote to bring them up to speed, I guess. So typically, the shelf life or useful life of these curtains is, I guess, approximately 15 years. So that's the updated information from Justin and Ken. Any other questions? Again, this is on for discussion at this meeting, and then will be action in 20.
Any questions?
You said there's only so many companies that do this work in Michigan. We only had one Michigan company bid. Were the other ones contacted, or they just weren't interested in bidding?
So when we put out an RFP, typically we don't contact anybody, other than if we've got to bring somebody in, so at least we get the specs right. So this company that actually won the bid was the one that Justin had hoped would be the lowest bid. So they got the specifications, then we just notify them that we're going to post it publicly like we need to because it's over the bid threshold. So we don't reach out, just to maintain a level playing field to any other company. Typically when we post these.
But anybody has access to it.
Correct. Yep. It's on the state signal that we did say.
If we were to reach out to 2 vendors and not the third,
Yeah.
then the third vendor would have cause to bring an issue to the table with that practice.
Yeah, and if any bidder has a question about the specs and we respond, typically we'll respond to anybody who submitted a bid thus far, just so that everybody can get the same information to protect ourselves.
This isn't really material for the bid, but I'm just wondering why 2 of them said no bid and they said the specs weren't there, but then the other ones did. I mean, is that just typical weirdness? Or?
Sometimes they just don't look at the details.
Okay.
But that's a good point. In some of them, there's things that we have to have, like a bid bond, the familia affidavit, the Iran sanction signed and notarized, and some of them will just miss that, and we can technically just throw out that bid as opposed to reaching back out to them because they've missed the deadline. Yeah, so that fortunately
just
just
curious.
happens, yeah, and that's
Okay.
probably one of those cases.
Anything further? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll move on to purchase of the Ritz van.
Okay, so this is unfortunately just a plain van, no flames that we wanted to put on the side or racing stripes, but this van really kind of mirrors one of our current vans that we have for our Ritz program. If you're not familiar with that, that's a Region 1 transition service program. So those are our special education students ages 18 to 26. And they just do a lot of off-site training. We've added a program that we're taking on for the region this year. So this quote right here will actually be split among the 7 districts in our region. All right, so they'll all be split in equal shares. Ken went out, and this was actually a van that is going to be purchased through my deal. So with that, we really just get the state consortium pricing. It's a state extended purchasing program. So it's already been bid out. Ken did upgrade in this quote from the 2019 model to the 2020. And then as you can see in there, he added some features, and the rationale was those are some of those are safety features, comfort for the riders, and then just upgrades to the vehicle, like better all-season tires and things like that as we're taking kids out, even in the wintertime. Questions on that? That's it.
So we'll make a decision on our board, and it'll just be invoiced out to all the other districts that are using it?
Correct. And that van, I should point out, will travel with the program. So if we don't host that regional program, that van will go with whatever that program, and then we'll go to that next district. It's already been approved by the superintendents in the region as well. I should point out at Scott's meeting.
So however many schools divided by 6 or whatever, we're just the front money.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whoever's hosting it then votes on, approves the purchase of the van.
Yeah. And those types of purchases have to be approved at the superintendent level. So the finance directors and special ed directors will bring that proposal to the superintendents. Scott presents it to the regional superintendents, and then they approve. Then we take it to our board to get final approval.
I should know, are we replacing a vehicle, or are we just need one, we don't have one?
This is a new vehicle because of an expansion to the program.
So is 10 passenger big enough? I mean, all the superintendents are happy with that?
That is actually state statute. We
Oh, it
can't
is.
transport more than that.
Okay.
You can't even buy a 15-passenger van and take out a seat. So it has to be a 10-passenger van, 11 including the driver.
So, you brought up the topic of racing stripes and flags on the sides. Do we need to put our name on the side? Can we put our name on the side? Can we do some sort of advertising in that sense? I know it's being shared with everybody else, but hey, if we have the opportunity,
Yeah.
let's advertise Cedar Springs.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I was at a program a couple Friday mornings ago for a Ritz celebration, and I'm trying to think in my head how the other bands were labeled.
I know with business, on the business side, you'd have to put a sticker on there to show what you're transporting or what company you're with.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if this applies to this situation or not.
I'll tell you what, we know where to get some great magnets
Yeah.
that we could put. But I am just not familiar with it,
Sure.
Matt. But I will go back to Ken, and I would imagine we might have to have some DOT or identifier or something like that we have to put on just to be able to go ahead.
It's Cedar Springs
Yeah.
Public Schools.
Right, but I think we should,
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Any opportunity we can, especially as we go to other districts, it'd be great to have us show things.
Yeah, these vans are in our community and they go
Yeah.
out other places, so yeah, that's a great idea. I'll make a note to talk to Ken about that. So.
I would recommend vinyl decals over magnets.
Oh,
Because
okay.
magnets walk away, and they get heat jawed, and they become a game for people to take. So you can get removable vinyl decals. I would do that if you're going to do it. It looks a little more professional. Just my recommendation if you're looking for.
Our trucks look nice
Conservative does.
around campus.
Yeah, the trucks.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay, anything further? All right, so moving on to iReady software purchase.
All right, so a reminder that we talked about this at our last meeting, and that this is one of the state-required diagnostic tools, and the one that we've been using for the past several years. From all that I can see, that 3-year recommendation is still good. I couldn't find anything that said that it wasn't. So hopefully, we will get some feedback from teachers at the end of this year to determine what next steps might be. And I'm already working on sending out some questions to get early information about that, and then we'll do so again in the spring.
Any follow-up questions? This will be on for action. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the National FFA Convention.
So I do have a little bit of additional information about this trip from the last time we talked about it in September. We do have a 2018 graduate, Cecilia Brandt, who will be receiving her American FFA degree at this convention that the students would be going to, which is the highest honor that's awarded by the FFA. So that's definitely worth noting. And that the FFA chapter is paying for some of the cost, but those funds are raised by the students. So again, this is with Mr. Lett and juniors and seniors who would be traveling to Indianapolis.
And remind us again, how much are the students having to raise on their own?
That is a great question. $225 for each student. And he and I did talk about how we might handle that if a student is not able to raise that money.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, concerns? Sounds good. We'll move on to the boys varsity basketball team overnight trip with Jen again.
Yeah. So last time we talked about this, there were a couple of questions about when exactly is the team selected and who would be going, and I did seek clarification on that. The first practice date for the team is November 18, and tryouts, of course, are right before that time. So this would be the actual team that would be going. The money has already been raised. So once those decisions are made, then he would be communicating that with the team.
Any questions, concerns? Straightforward. Okay. We will move on to public comments. This is the time where if anybody would like to address the board and have their 3 minutes, we'd be more than willing to listen. I don't have any cards or papers turned in, but if anybody is inspired for their 3 minutes, now would be the time. And I don't see any takers, so we will move on to the action portion of our meeting. And first up, we have the iReady software purchase, and I'll entertain a motion.
And move to approve as presented.
Support?
Any discussion? Having none, Mr. Schaffner?
Yes.
Ms. Slager?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Ms. Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Mr. Rivard?
Yes.
Ms. Bowser?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Yes. Motion carries. And item B, we have the National FFA Convention. I'll entertain a motion for as presented.
I move we accept item B, National FFA Convention as presented.
Support?
Any discussion? Having none, Mr. Schaffner?
Yes.
Ms. Slager?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Ms. Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Mr. Rivard?
Yes.
Ms. Bowser?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Yes. FFA Convention is heading there. And then C, the boys varsity basketball team overnight trip. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved?
Support. Any discussion? Having none, Mr. Schaffner?
Yes.
Ms. Slager?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Ms. Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Mr. Rivard?
Yes.
Ms. Bowser?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Yes. The basketball team's going on an overnight trip. Thank you. And that moves us on to communications. And for the Board of Education, I just have the annual calendar, which is in our board policies. And we're going to be looking at that in our October work session and looking at what we're doing in each month. And we're looking to refine it, standardize it, and line it up with the flight plan. And as we have a new administration, this is a little dated. So that's the thought behind bringing it to a work session, just so you've got a little heads up.
And just for clarification, it would be our operating procedures.
Thank you for that clarification, because I always do that. Yes.
Have to be technical.
Yep, no, that's fine. I appreciate that. Operating procedures.
Unless
And-
we do throw this in the policies, I don't think.
No, no, because it's a little more,
This is how we operate. Yes.
There's some things on here that are outdated. There's things, when we do just because of the laws and why we do them then, so that will stay the same. So we'll refine it. And that's my communication. Is there any other communication from the board?
The only one that I had, I don't know if you guys noticed in your NASB emails, they sent out the delegate assembly piece. So as we move forward, as Tracy gets ready to go up there, if we have comments or concerns, we need to bring that to us as a board and let her know so she can represent us. I'll try to say.
Yes, I appreciate that.
So,
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Move on to communications from the superintendent.
In 21 days, 23 hours, and 49 minutes, the polls will be closed. So the march continues. We start our community forums. We have 3 of those scheduled for tomorrow and again on Thursday. 2 in the morning, 1 at 9, 1 at 11, and that, or excuse me, 1 at 9, 1 at 1, and then we'll meet over at Beach at 6:30 for anyone who's interested in doing a tour of the building, and then we'll do a forum at 7, and then we'll repeat that schedule again on Thursday. The videos are continuing to roll out. All the scripts are ready to go. They're being filmed as we continue to work, and so that will just be an ongoing stream of information that we continue to share with our community as we, maintain that focus on giving people the correct and accurate information that they need in order to make a good decision for their families. So we're excited.
Thank you for all of your appearances you've made everywhere.
The parade was cool to see the look on the faces of the kids as they were reaching out and waving at the Red Hawk. It was awesome.
Great turnout too for the event. The whole town was out. I mean, there were people, a lot of people out, so it was good. I saw you drive the Jeep with the Red Hawk in the back, and actually the FFA had an appearance, the band. We had a lot of representation from the school, so it was very cool.
Okay. Anything else? Move on to planning, our work session for October 28th, starting at 6:15. And if we do have action for that portion of the meeting, will be at this table. And then if we go into the discussion, we'll be moving to a U-shaped table, just so that it's a catch off guard that we talk planning about that. So we go from formal business, get that done, to our discussion. And with that, we'll be adjourned.